Hello again. Thought I'd talk a little bit in this video about where guitars are built. Now, this guitar, a Thompson, all it says on the headstock is Thompson. There's no made in the UK or anything like that. But I know it was built in the UK. I visited the Thompson guitar workshop and worked with Thompson guitars. It was a custom order, so I completely know the history of this guitar. But if you buy just like a stock guitar in a music store, it'll have something on the back of the headstock or the front of the headstock somewhere that says, made in USA, made in Japan. Increasingly you see things like made in Korea, made in China, made in Indonesia, what have you. And thought I'd talk a little bit about what that made in ... actually means. Main thing that you'll think of is if you see a guitar with a manufacturer's logo on the headstock and a made in country on the back of the headstock. That tells you two things. It tells you it was made in the whatever guitar manufacturer's factory by that guitar manufacturer in a specific country. Now, in a lot of cases that's true. The high-end models from the main manufacturers are made by those manufacturers in their own facilities. But the guitar market, like so many things, it's a business. It's something where these companies need to be competitive, and they look for ways that they can make their operation more efficient. The one thing that they'll do is move the manufacturing of models that need to be more competitively priced, a little bit lower in the model range. They'll move the manufacturing to, if you like, a cheaper country. Now I'm not talking about slave labour or anything like that, just country where generally labour costs are lower, and that kind of keeps the overheads of the manufacturer lower, and they can then pass that cost efficiency on to the consumer. So you'll have guitar manufacturers who have factories in a number of countries, some countries that are cheaper than others. A good example there is my Fender Stratocaster. That was it's a Fender made in Mexico series, and that was made by Fender in a Fender factory in Mexico. But there's another aspect of this, if you like, offshoring of guitar manufacturing. It's called ghost building, and it gets a bit of a bad rap, but I'll explain what it is and let you draw your own conclusions if you think it's a good thing or a bad thing or not. Ghost building is where a guitar manufacturer will give a specification to another guitar builder and have them build the guitar for them. And there's a number of companies, particularly out in the Far East, where they have huge manufacturing facilities and they take on contracts from other guitar manufacturers, from other guitar companies, and build guitars to their specifications. Now, some people say that's a bit of a swizz. It's a bit of a cheat, because if I'm buying a guitar that's got a certain brand name on the headstock, I want to know that guitar was built by that brand. That's fair enough, but do you want that brand at that brand price, or do you want that brand at something that you could afford, and something that compromises you buy something which is lower down the price range, and often that could mean that it's been ghost built. And what happens with ghost building is the guitar manufacturer, the company whose name you see on the headstock, comes up with a specification for the guitar, what type of timber they want to use, body shape, neck profile, a full detailed specification, and goes to a ghost builder and says, can you manufacture this? We're talking about very high production volumes, so you get economies of scale, which keeps the price competitive. And the guitars are built, and because they're like authorized specification to the guitar company spec, they have the guitar company's logo on the headstock. And just looking at it, there's nothing that you would know. There's no way you could tell just by looking at it. Say, oh yeah, that guitar has been ghost built. It's done to a specification. So if you go to one of these ghost building factories, you could see a whole bunch of household name guitar brands being assembled, pretty much on the same production line by the same staff, but each one's been done to a specification that comes from that brand. So it's not necessarily just a whole bunch of the same guitar being built by the Goose Builder and having a whatever logo put on the headstock. They are being built to a specification. And another reason that you might find a guitar that's been ghost built is just it's a really popular model. It's not unknown for guitar manufacturers to sort of reach capacity at their manufacturing facilities that they own, and because they want to meet orders from retailers, they need to subcontract out to a ghost builder to get the guitars built so they can meet the market demand. Now you'll notice I'm not actually naming specific brands here. It doesn't really matter. I don't want to libel somebody by saying they do ghost building when actually they don't, in case I've misremembered any facts. But just generally speaking, there's a lot of the big name manufacturers, big name guitar brands that you will have heard of to some degree or another. They do ghost building. They don't all do it, but an awful lot do. But it's not necessarily a bad thing as long as you understand what it is and why it is that you can get a guitar with a particular brand on the headstock for a competitive price. And like I said, it's legitimate in that what you're buying at the end of the day, it's a branded guitar built to that brand specification, and the price reflects the fact that it was ghost built rather than built at the more expensive to maintain facilities owned by the guitar brand. But there's another side of this which we need to mention, and that's the aspect of fake guitars. Fake guitars where you see a guitar with a name that you recognise on the headstock, something like it says Fender or it says Gibson or whatever, and it's being passed off as the genuine article, and it's not. It's not being built to that manufacturer's specification. It's not built with their blessing or anything. It's been built often with low quality materials, poorly built. Necks won't line up properly, bridges won't be set properly. I've even seen things where just the heel of the neck is completely wrong and makes it very difficult to play. All people are doing is building a cheap guitar, and I don't mean low cost, I mean cheap, and then fraudulently putting a big name brand logo on the headstock and selling it as the genuine article. And the thing is, guitars look nice. Even if it's cheap, badly built guitar, at first glance you think, wow, that an electric guitar is a nice thing to behold. So you can kind of be seduced. You need to be careful. There's a lot of fake guitars out there. So if you see something that it's a very low price point, but it's got a name on the headstock, you need to think about, is it a genuine article, particularly when you're buying online or in the second-hand market, because people could get these things and pass them off as the real thing. So things to look for, you want shipping tags, you want some sort of provenance to it, know that it's the real article. So whatever your opinion about ghost built guitars, if you think it's good or bad or whatever, I think there's no denying that the idea of a fake guitar, taking something that's cheap, badly made, substandard parts, and being passed off as being the genuine article, that's just a bad thing. It shouldn't be encouraged. Kind of it's defrauding people. It's devaluing the brand for people who have paid good money for a branded guitar. So fakes really shouldn't be encouraged. So I suppose it's like a lot of consumer goods, buyer beware. Be aware of what's out there, and don't get too disillusioned. If you've got a guitar with a brand on the headstock and someone says, oh, that's not actually made by whoever, it's ghost built. Ghost built doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. The important thing is that the guitar is built to a specification, which is good, and it's competitively priced, which means you can afford it, and that's also good. So that's just a little bit about guitar manufacture and ghost building. I thought you might find that interesting. Hopefully you did. Thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in another video soon. Bye for now.